let's talk about AI, because right now the world of artificial intelligence is absolutely on fire. Money is pouring in at a rate that is, well, it's kind of hard to wrap your head around. We're talking trillions of dollars. But the big question is this a real revolution, or are we all just watching the biggest bubble in history inflate right before our very eyes? Okay, to get a sense of the scale here, let's start with the company at the very heart of it all, Nvidia. They're the ones making the essential computer chips that power this entire revolution. Just recently, their market value soared past $3 trillion. To put that in perspective, that's more than the entire economy of the United Kingdom. And it's not just the hardware, not by a long shot. The software side is just as explosive. Take OpenAI, the company that kicked this whole frenzy off with ChatGPT. It now has an estimated valuation of $500 billion. I mean, think about that. This is for a company that just a few years ago was a pretty obscure research lab. That is some unbelievable growth. And the spending plans for the future? They are on a scale we have literally never seen before. Get this. There's a planned data center codenamed Project Stargate. The projected cost is $500 billion for one project. That's enough cash to fund the entire Apollo program, the one that put a man on the moon 2 times over. So you can see, with this much money flying around, the stakes are just incredibly high, which is why we have to ask the biggest question in tech and finance right now. Are we living through a genuine technological revolution, something on the same level as the internet itself? Or are we inside a massive speculative bubble, a house of cards that's about to come crashing down? To really figure this out, we first have to understand the argument for the boom. Why do so many incredibly smart people believe that this is, without a doubt, the real deal? Well, let's go straight to the top. The CEO of that $3 trillion company we just talked about, Nvidia's Jensen Huang, he's very clear on this. He insists that what his company is seeing isn't just speculative hype. He says it's real, fundamental demand for an entirely new way of computing. And you know what? The numbers seem to back him up. I mean, just look at this chart of Nvidia's quarterly profits. This isn't just a steady climb, it's a rocket ship. It goes from around $9 billion 2 years ago to over $32 billion today. This isn't just growth, it's a total feeding frenzy for their technology. So here's the core argument for the optimists. OpenAI says it has the fastest growing platform in human history. Tech giants like Microsoft and Google are reporting that they have more customer demand for AI services than they can even handle. The people who believe in this boom argue this isn't some fad. It's a foundational shift in our world, just like the rise of railroads or the birth of the internet. But, of course, that's only half the story. Now, we've got to look at the other side, at the cracks that are starting to appear in this shiny new AI world. This is where those sky-high valuations are starting to clash with the hard, cold reality of actually making money. And this right here really reveals a massive disconnect. OpenAI, valued at $500 billion, isn't even expected to be profitable for years. Its main rival, Anthropic, is in the exact same boat. These are gigantic bets on a future that, hasn't actually arrived yet. And here's the real problem. That disconnect isn't just happening on the balance sheets of the big AI companies. It's also being felt by their customers. A recent study by McKinsey found that for the vast majority of businesses actually using AI, it's still pretty much just an experiment. It's not really making them any more money yet. This brings us to a pretty stark warning from Michael Burry. You might know him as the investor who famously predicted the 2008 financial crisis. He argues that if you look past all the hype, the actual demand from real, everyday paying customers, what the industry calls end demand, is, in his words, ridiculously small. So, if that end demand is really so small, then where on earth is all this money coming from? And this leads us to one of the most troubling parts of the AI boom. This strange circular flow of money that might just be creating the illusion of real growth. So the key idea here is something called circular deals. It works kind of like this. Imagine I give you $100, but there's a catch. You have to immediately use that same $100 to buy a product from me. I get my money right back, and now I can go tell everyone I made a $100 sale. That, in a nutshell, is what a circular deal looks like in the AI world. Yeah, this breaks down the cycle perfectly. A tech giant invests a ton of money in a startup. The startup then turns around and uses that exact same money to buy services back from the tech giant. On paper, everyone wins, but critics are arguing it's just a house of mirrors. The same pot of money is just being passed around to make it look like there's a booming market, and it hide how much real organic customer demand actually exists. And look, this isn't just some fringe theory. Michael Burry calls it customers being funded by their dealers. Even Google's own CEO has admitted there's some irrationality in all the spending. We're also seeing real stress in the credit markets, and major analysts at Goldman Sachs are estimating that a pretty big chunk of Nvidia's future sales could come from these exact kinds of deals. Okay, so if the profits are still years away and some of the demand might be, artificial, what's the end game here? Why are these companies spending trillions of dollars? Well, it all comes down to a single, incredibly audacious goal. And that goal is something called artificial general intelligence, or AGI. Now, we're not just talking about smarter chatbots here. This is the holy grail, creating a machine that can think, reason, create, and solve problems just like a human can, or maybe even better. If they can actually pull this off, it will change literally everything. As one economist put it so perfectly, this whole thing is an AGI or bust situation. The trillions and trillions of dollars being spent only makes sense if you truly believe this holy grail is within reach. If they succeed, the rewards are almost infinite. But if they fail, this could go down as one of the most expensive miscalculations in human history. And this brings up the historical parallel that everyone is thinking about, the dot-com bubble. When that bubble burst, hundreds of companies, think Pets.com, they just vanished, and they took billions of investor dollars with them. But a few companies, like Amazon and Google, they survived the wreckage, and they went on to completely define our modern world. So, are we on the verge of creating the next Amazon or the next Pets.com? Are we about to enter a new golden age, or are we about to witness a spectacular collapse? The answer is going to determine not just the future of technology, but the fate of trillions of dollars of our collective wealth. The only question is, are you ready for the ride?